Such a pretty, pretty song and such beautiful harmonies you do together. So, Friendship Month, relationships. I want to talk to you this morning and next Sunday about ideas for growing holy relationships. Ideas for growing holy relationships. I want to begin with a quote that you may recognize. I'm not going to tell you first who said these words, but I will tell you in a minute. In the fleeting time we have on this earth, what matters is not wealth or status or power or fame, but rather how well we have loved. Those beautiful words. Would you agree with them? I certainly do. In the fleeting time we have on this earth, what matters is not wealth or status or power or fame, but rather how well we have loved. Those words were spoken by President Obama in Tucson, Arizona in 2011, when he spoke at the memorial service for those who had been killed in that political rally. And regardless of your political persuasion, those words have such truth and such depth to them. In the fleeting time we have on this earth, and none of us knows how long that time is, what matters is not wealth, though certainly we have plenty of messages all around us to suggest otherwise, or status, or power, or fame, but rather how well we have loved each other. Jesus said the same thing when he said, "They will know that you are my disciples by how well you love each other." Not by how well you quote scripture, not by how many people you convert, not by what you say, but by what you do, how you be, specifically how well you love each other. We know this. We know the importance of loving. And yet, in the reality of living our relationships, sometimes it's difficult, is it not? It's easy to love those who love us. It's not always easy to love those who don't love us or who think so very differently than we do. And yet, our journey of growth and unfoldment as spiritual beings is to deepen into the experience of love, to love not only when it is easy and joyful, but to love in those places and those times and those relationships where it is challenging. And so today and next Sunday, I want to share with you some practices that are both spiritual and human practices that can help us to create more holy relationships. I doubt that these ideas that I want to share this week and next week are going to be things that you have never heard before. You're a very well-informed spiritual community, but I do believe that certain things bear repeating, and that when we hear them differently because we are different than the last time we heard them, and our life circumstances are different than the last time we heard them. But before I go into the three ideas that I want to share with you, in recognition that this is Friendship Month, and in recognition that there are those of you who are here for the very first time, you're here because a friend brought you, I want to say just a couple of words about unity. We are a unity community. What many people don't know about unity is that unity did not begin as with the intention to create churches all around the country and all around the world. Unity was founded in the late 1800s by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, two individuals who had experienced a significant health challenge in their lives and who worked their way successfully through those health and physical challenges through the practice of what we today call visualization and affirmative prayer. And as a result of their physical healing, the people around them who were witness to the fact that they had healed, those people wanted to know something of what they were doing. And the Fillmores shared their process of visualization, their process of affirmative prayer, and more people started to come and practice these ideas. And before they knew it, they had a following. And before they knew it, they were teaching on a regular basis. And before they knew it, people were asking for more and more. In the early years of them offering classes or services, they very decidedly offered those services on Saturday evening. And they did that very consciously and conscientiously because they did not want to interfere with those who were Jewish going to temple on Saturday morning, or those who were part of mainline Christianity being able to go to their church on Sunday morning. And this is really the root of our desire in Unity, to be a community, yes, and to have a solid spiritual teaching, while at the same time recognizing that inherent in all the world's religious traditions are seeds of truth and perennial wisdom. The American psychologist, philosopher William James said of the New Thought movement, of which Unity is a part, that Unity, that New Thought, is the religion of healthy-mindedness. I like that phrase. The religion of healthy-mindedness. And that we are the only uniquely American contribution to the world body of religion. When I worked in Silent Unity during my ministerial training, I prayed with people who would call in from all over the world for prayer support. And very quickly I realized that there was one theme more than any other theme that people were asking prayer support on. And it wasn't health and it wasn't prosperity. It was relationships. People wanted to know how to have meaningful, healthy relationships. And usually they called because they weren't experiencing that. They were experiencing pain in their relationships or hurt in their relationships or the breakup of a relationship, or they were feeling alone and lonely and they were looking for companionship and looking for love. In Unity, we find some very key fundamental ideas that help us to create relationships that are rich and that can be lasting, whether they are friendships, intimate relationships, or business relationships. Because common to each, intimate, friendship, business, is what? Relationship. It's connection with other people. So here are the three ideas. The first is this, and this is a proven behavior that fosters healthy relationships. In fact, without these three that I'll share today and three that I'll share next Sunday, I doubt that you can have a healthy and meaningful relationship. And the first is integrity. It is living in integrity. Now, what does that mean as it relates to relationship with the divine? I think very basically it means this, that we remember that we are made in the image and after the likeness of God, of Spirit. That we are not apart from or separate from God. We are a unique, individualized expression of the One. And that because we are made in the image and after the likeness of God, of Spirit, that we are designed by nature to express that we are meant to unfold more and more of the divine nature, the God nature, that we are called to express that. We are one with the One by whatever name we call that One. And because we are each one with that One, we are one with each other. Some of the etymology of the word integrity or integer means one, refers to one, to be singular, of purpose, to be pure of mind, to be pure of heart. In Buddhism, this idea of integrity is expressed, in the Eightfold Path, in the ideas of right mindfulness, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right concentration. We bring integrity into our relationships on the human level in some very simple to say, but not always convenient to do, ways. Very simply and basically, bringing integrity into our relationships, be they intimate relationships, deep friendships, or business relationships, is the idea of keeping our word, making agreements, and keeping those agreements. And if something comes up that would cause us to not be able to do what we said we were going to do, that we are forthright and direct in acknowledging the change that needs to happen, that we don't hide, we don't make excuses. It is the idea that the inside and the outside match. This is in part what is referred to in the Eightfold Path of right intention or right motivation. That we do the right thing, the noble thing, for the right reasons and with the right intention. It is what becomes the foundation of trust. I have long felt for myself that it is far easier for me to get love back in a relationship than it is sometimes to get trust back in a relationship. When I do wedding ceremonies or renewal of marriage vows, I speak about the importance of friendship within the context of our most intimate relationships, and that friendship is based first and foremost on the foundation of trust. And trust is based on the choice to live one's life in integrity. That our inside matches our outside. That, as my dear friend and former Unity minister, who's no longer with us, Bob Stevens, used to say, that you live by one set of rules, not two. One set of rules, not two. Not a set of rules that you live by when people are looking, because you know you might get caught. And then another set of rules when nobody's looking, but that you live by one set of rules. One of the deepest and holiest things we can do in a relationship is to be in that relationship in integrity, which also means being our true selves, our authentic selves. And guess what? Being your true, authentic self means that there are going to be people who don't like you. Take a breath. I know none of you has ever experienced that. When we are not our true selves in a relationship, we are depriving the other of any solid foundation on which to build the relationship, as well as ourselves. We've got to be who we really are in the relationship, not as an excuse for not doing our own inner work that we have to do. Do not use this as an excuse to not do the growth work that you need to do and to smooth out any rough edges you have or become a little more skillful in the way that you learn to speak and listen and so forth. But by the same token, get comfortable in your skin and be who you really are in all of your relationships. It's one expression of integrity. The second behavior that is foundational to any and every rich and holy and sacred relationship is the ability to recognize, to honor, to appreciate our differences. To recognize, to honor, to appreciate our differences. You know, sometimes the way that we act in relationship is a little bit like we're trying to get everybody to do things the way that we would do them, to see things the way that we would see them, to respond the way that we would respond. And if we were successful to do that, stop and think for a moment. Part of you thinks that all your problems would be solved, but the other part absolutely realizes the truth that if you got everybody to think and act and believe and speak and do as you do, you would create a very boring life for yourself. God loves diversity. God loves diversity. No two snowflakes are exactly alike. No two flowers are exactly alike. No two sunsets are exactly alike. No two people are exactly alike. Any of you who are parents of more than one child knows that beyond a shadow of a doubt, do you not? That you can raise your children in the same way and look at them and realize they are very unique individuals. Is that not true? Absolutely, that is true. Because each of us comes in as a unique, individualized expression of God, meant to be who we are, not someone else. There's a cute story that I came across of this idea of honoring our uniqueness. It's a story that Congressman Samuel Tribble from Georgia told at a prayer breakfast one day in Washington, D.C. It was about teaching his daughter that she was really her own person. And there was a problem because everywhere his daughter would go, she was always associated as Congressman Tribble's daughter. And so the adults would recognize her and they'd coo over her and, oh, you must be Congressman Tribble's daughter. Well, she didn't like that. It felt like she had no identity herself. She was only known as Congressman Tribble's daughter. So she talked to her parents about it. Her father said, oh, just ignore it. Her mother said, no, honey, this is what you do. The next time that happens, you just stand up and you say, no, I am Constance Tribble. And so they practiced that for a while. A few days later, a group of people came to meet her father and met her as well. And they approached her and they said to her, why, Congressman Tribble must be your father. And she stood up and looked him squarely in the eye and said, that's not what my mother says. Now, he really was her father. She got the advice a little bit mixed up in that moment of declaring her uniqueness, but it was her need, her desire, her natural want to be recognized as an individual and not to be in the shadow of someone else, but to be seen. What is that movie? Avatar, was that the movie where they looked in the eye and instead of saying, I love you, it was, I see you, I see you. We grow, we blossom in relationships, in friendships, in partnerships, where the other sees us and loves us for who we are. And what a gift we give to the other when we really see them as well. And the third, very basic, but boy, is it worth a lifetime to continue to practice and get better and better at. And a third behavior that is fundamental to all healthy relationships, whether they are business, intimate, or friendship, is excellent communication, communicating well. And this is true on the divine level as much as on the human level. How do we communicate well on the divine level? What does that mean spiritually? I believe that that means or refers to our prayer and our meditation life, that both of those are aspects of how we connect with or communicate with God, with Spirit, whatever we call that higher power and presence. Prayer, very simply, is the activity of speaking to God, Spirit. And meditation is the activity of being present to and listening to Spirit, to God. And boy, are those equally important in our human relationships, that we are able to speak clearly. Some dear friends of mine refer to a practice in their relationship that they call gentle honesty. To speak the truth to one another, but in a gentle way. And sometimes that takes some practice to learn how to do that. To have the courage to speak your truth in a gentle way, and to have the courage and the inner strength to listen to the other's truth, to receive it in a gentle way. One of the highest compliments that I think we can be paid as spiritual beings, as human beings, is to be looked upon as a safe place to ask a question, a safe place to hear a response, to be an askable parent, to be an askable partner, to be an askable lover. What do I mean by that? I mean by that you can be in a state that is so open and so centered in yourself that you can hear what the other person has to say, and not react and respond from anything other than the highest that is in you. That you are a safe place for that information and that feedback. And so these ideas, as simple as they are to speak about, the idea of living in integrity, that the inside and the outside match, the idea of honoring and appreciating and celebrating the richness of diversity. Thank God that we're not all exactly the same. We need that uniqueness. The idea of practicing and getting better and better as we get older and older in our ability to communicate clearly and to listen sincerely and deeply. These are bedrock behaviors to building healthy relationships in friendship, in business, in our life partnerships. And so I invite you into this practice, and I invite you to join us next Sunday when we're going to take a look at 3 more of those practices. I invite you as well to really think about who in your life do you know could benefit from what we're all about. We are a place of learning together. We are a place that teaches principles and practices that, when done, can absolutely change one's life for the better. But we are more than just a place that teaches. I want you to look to the people around you right now. We are community. We are community. And community is powerful. Community is important. Relationship is important. Relationship with people of similar mind and heart. Doesn't mean we exclude everyone who's different from us. Doesn't mean that. But it does mean that we recognize and value that there is something to be had in community that cannot be had or experienced in isolation. That community helps us to be stronger and to remember to practice when we might feel weak or discouraged. And that community gives us a chance to also give back to one another, to offer a word of encouragement or a practical gesture of support to those who are going through difficulty in their lives. So we want to make it a little bit fun throughout Friendship Month as we just very quickly touch upon some of the unique friendship ways that people have come into this Unity Center community. And so I'm going to ask Phil to just very briefly and quickly introduce Nancy Wilkins, one of our very regular and devoted members of the Unity Center. Please welcome Nancy.
Now, the context of how you talk to someone and where you talk to someone about the Unity Center is very, very important. And so, Nancy, I'd like you to tell everyone where you first heard about the Unity Center.
In a bar.
I love that.
And what was the sentence that actually moved you to ask for more?
He said, I have to leave early because I have to go to work in the morning at church.
And how has your experience been?
It's great. He said, come tomorrow, we have a special musical guest. And I said, okay. So I did, and I've been here ever since.
Please, whenever you're in a bar, remember this story. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. And thank you to the person who invited you in that way. I joked at first service, I said, maybe we ought to have a contest. Built on honesty, though. Can't be a made-up story. A contest of the most interesting ways people have found the Unity Center. It could be an awful lot of fun. Let me close with the words I opened my message with. In the fleeting time we have on this earth, what matters is not wealth or status or power or fame, but rather how well we have loved. Namaste.